Hey guys, Unfair here, back again with another Should I Buy? This one is for the Bureau, XCOM Declassified. It's an interesting combination between a third-person shooter and the normal XCOM style. Now I should mention I haven't played any of the previous XCOM games. I do know a little bit about them just from seeing other people play them, but I don't have a whole lot of experience myself, so this was kind of new to me. There's basically two separate parts, the story and the tactical missions. Everything outside the tactical missions is very linear. They actually built a pretty large world. Unfortunately, it's not very immersive. There's very few items you can actually interact with. It really feels more like you're just listening to an audiobook when you're not in the missions. There's not really any flavor NPCs, or any extra items at all. You're either picking up ammo or reading notes to go along with the story. Occasionally some of the NPCs will have a conversation you can listen to, but once again it's just trying to give you some extra story, and those scripted conversations are very few and far between. Aside from that, you cannot interact with most of the random NPCs. The named NPCs will actually have a conversation with you, but here again all the options are pretty much just giving you more audiobooks to listen to. There's not really a whole lot of choice, you might as well just be reading a story. I was using the mouse and keyboard, but you can use a game controller if you want to. The mouse and keyboard didn't feel completely natural, but it worked pretty well. It is probably a little slower to get a headshot with a game controller in third-person mode, but aside from that, a lot of the other actions may feel more natural with a controller. There are 4 different difficulties: Rookie, Squatty, Veteran, Commander. Veteran is the default difficulty. Basically the difference between these is how much damage the enemy does, and also how fast your teammates bleed out. On the very hardest difficulty, if they go into bleed out, you can only stabilize them. They won't be able to participate for the rest of the fight. You can't get them back up like the other difficulties. If you do win the fight though, you can drop in a replacement. If you're in a position where you can't get to your teammates in time, you can have them heal and get each other back up. Just make sure you're covering them because you don't want a second one to go down in the process. It's extremely important to get your teammates back up or at least stabilize them. They level up and gain new skills as you bring them along on missions. So if one of them actually dies, you lose them, so all the time you spent leveling them up was pretty much wasted. The further you go along in the game, the harder it's going to be if you're constantly fighting with level 1s. For instance, one of the level 2 skills is a shield that you can put over your units, so they can stand up and fire without taking damage themselves. Skills like this are actually kind of important because the friendly AI is not very smart. Luckily, you do have a skill of your own that you can use every minute or so, and it heals your entire squad. This wouldn't be so crucial except that they don't really use cover properly. It seems like your friendly AI doesn't really figure out an opportune time to pop up. It'll get out of cover and shoot even when there's suppressing fire going on. Obviously, this can lose its health really quickly. The AI will move around automatically, trying to find the best cover possible. I found it actually moved around a little too much, taking damage when it really wasn't necessary. If you tell the unit to go to a specific location, it does kind of override this, so you can use that to get them to stay where you want them. The downside to this is if they're being flanked and you don't notice, they'll sit there being shot until they die. I really would like a mix of these, either an AI that used cover better, or one that moved or at least gave you warning during potentially fatal interactions. Much like a normal XCOM game, you have to have certain angles on the enemy if you want to do a decent amount of damage. For example, if you can catch them out of cover, you may be able to do 175% of normal damage. If they're crouching behind a wall, you may only get 30%. Your squad does have certain skills to flush them out, and you and some of your men also have grenades, which are pretty important. Your second level also gives you another skill where you can basically levitate one of the enemies in the air. This is crucial to use on important enemies. You tell both of your guys to target them, and then you levitate them, and between you and your other 2 guys you can usually kill them before they come back down. Using your teammates in combo like this is fairly important. When they target separate enemies, it seems to take a lot longer to get a kill, and in the process they take a lot more damage. A lot of the combat in this game, aside from positioning, is knowing what enemies you should target and what enemies to send your squad after. You have a very limited amount of ammo, and you don't do a whole lot of damage to shields, whereas your teammates seem to have unlimited ammo and do a lot more damage to those. So it's a good idea to have your teammates focus on the shield guys, or enemies that you can't kill in one shot, and you can get one-shot kills on the little ones trying to flank them. Each mission is comprised of multiple fights. They're probably somewhere around 45 minutes to an hour long total. In between each of these fights, generally you find more ammo, and they try and give you a little bit of the story, but for the most part you're running through pretty but empty areas. Sometimes you also come across supply stations, and these completely replenish your ammo, as well as letting you trade out and re-equip your squad members. You can actually pick what weapons they carry, as well as picking your own weapons. These guns are unlocked by picking them up within the game. It doesn't seem like you actually have to finish a level with them, you just have to have picked them up sometime during it. This is a really good thing because sometimes I picked up guns that I liked, but I knew for the fights that were coming up I just couldn't keep them, because you can only hold 2 guns at any given time. If you want a new one, you have to swap one of the ones you're carrying. Graphically, the game looks pretty good. Unfortunately, it has some weird performance issues. Certain ones are expected. If you have an AMD card, you probably want to turn off physics. If you can leave it on though, it makes things like cloth look really nice. I still notice some weird performance drops during the in-game cutscenes though. The strangest part about this is the cutscenes actually happen in the room that you're in. so your performance is just fine in normal third-person view, but when it breaks into the cutscene, the frame rate sometimes drops in half, so I suspect they're adding other light sources or something during the cutscenes. The lip syncing in this game isn't that great either. Sometimes it can be downright distracting. Here's one of the worst cases.
You the dispatcher?
A little more than that, Agent Carter. I'm Chief Information Officer with the Bureau.
Information officer, what does that mean?
I oversee the dispatchers, but in addition to that, I also manage our public communications and keep our profile low. And for now, my job is also keeping the public from knowing the scope of the threat.
So overall, if you're looking for an immersive RPG, or a straight-up third-person shooter, this probably isn't the game for you. If you're looking for a game that has an interesting combination of XCOM fighting and a little bit of cover third-person shooting, then this one is an interesting choice. The friendly AI could really use an upgrade, it seems annoying at times, and there is some weird graphical performance, but overall I kind of enjoyed it, even as somebody that hasn't played an XCOM game before. Thanks for watching, I'll be back soon with more Indie Bundle and game reviews.